Hi, and welcome back. In the last video, you developed your skills as a photographer by learning about composition and color. In this video, we will switch gears and talk about how air quality affects our bodies, our communities, and our environment. While some air pollution occurs naturally, most of the air pollution today is man-made. The presence of chemical and particle substances in the atmosphere has many negative effects on our bodies. Breathing polluted air can irritate our respiratory system, and in the long term can cause respiratory illnesses and even cancer. This is a photograph of Kenesha Miller. Kenesha works as a security guard at a truck yard on the edge of the San Bernardino airport. After working there for only 1 week, she said that the pollutants in the air caused her nose and throat to bleed from irritation. Long-term effects can occur when our bodies are exposed to air-polluting particles for a prolonged period of time. These particles are often talked about as PM10 and PM2.5, which refers to their size in microns, a very tiny unit of measure that is smaller than a grain of sand. When we breathe in these particles, they can enter our circulatory system and move to sensitive parts of our bodies, like our lungs, our vital organs, and even to our brain, which can lead to neurological disorders like dementia and Alzheimer's. The average rate of respiratory illness is higher in the Inland Empire than in the rest of the state of California, just one of the results of all this pollution. This is a photograph of Estela Hernandez. Estela lives in San Bernardino's West Side neighborhood, one of the most severely affected communities in the Inland Empire when it comes to air pollution. This community happens to be the home of the Burlington North Santa Fe Railroad Company, one of the largest freight transporters in the region. Additionally, there is also a large cement production facility nearby Estela's home where she runs a daycare center. That facility produces so much pollution that she has to keep the windows and doors sealed. Even so, her home is always full of dust. The grass on her lawn doesn't grow anymore because of the layer of cement dust. Estela's granddaughter Marissa has grown up with respiratory problems and often couldn't go outside to play. Prolonged health problems in individuals can lead to larger problems that affect the entire community, such as learning disabilities in children and lifelong physical and mental health problems. This impacts communities that live nearest to the sources of pollution the most. The Lopez family has lived in this home for 15 years. Air pollution is part of their daily lives. Their youngest son struggles with respiratory problems, while the oldest, who is currently in college studying law enforcement, laments that he can't get away from the bad air in his home or at his work in a local warehouse. The biggest economic driver in the Inland Empire is the logistics industry, which is the storage of consumer goods in warehouses and the movement of them by rail, truck, and airplane. This industry is also the biggest contributor to air pollution. Additionally, it invades residential neighborhood space and displaces entire communities. Brian and Justin grew up on Washington Street in Fontana. They recall playing soccer on the streets as children, but they had to stop their games constantly because of trucks driving through their neighborhoods. Eventually, their neighborhood began to change. More and more people moved out to make room for warehouses and truck yards. Now there are just a few houses and one apartment building left on their block. People who are impacted the most by these problems live in historically underserved neighborhoods, communities which are almost always low-income neighborhoods of people of color. This in turn becomes an issue of environmental inequality and injustice. Lastly, air pollution contributes to climate change. Climate change refers to long-term changes in weather patterns. Historically, this has happened gradually over millions of years. Today, however, climate change is happening at a much faster rate due to human activity, with air pollution being a major factor. The majority of air pollution today comes from burning fossil fuels like gas or diesel. Industries that rely heavily on these energy sources are some of the biggest polluters. The logistics industry in the Inland Empire is a prime example. The way air pollution contributes to climate change is complex, but this image gives you a sense of how carbon dioxide, which is a product of burning fossil fuels, gets trapped within our atmosphere and adds to global warming. Climate change impacts the whole world. Oceans get warmer and more acidic. Sea levels rise as Arctic ice begins to melt. More drastic weather changes like storms and droughts. Our food systems are negatively affected, and more wildfires, just to name a few. Global warming and climate change affects all life on Earth, from plants to animals to microorganisms and to human beings. Climate change affects us all, but to most people it is still an abstract idea. There is also much resistance to change from industry. Change means that corporations will make less money, which affects a slew of self-serving individuals and groups of people in power. But we can all be a part of the change. We must engage in this issue, changing what we consume and how we consume products, and an awareness of the impacts of our actions. Okay, now it's time to put what you've just learned into practice. Complete the activity section in this module, and we will see you in the next video, where we will talk about taking portraits, as well as how photography can play a vital role in our society. See you in the next video.